Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. It is Monday. Not a bad day out. Pretty normal weather-wise. It was actually pretty nice weather. We had some snow on Saturday, so it was pretty cool. So it was a fun music-filled weekend. I saw a couple of really cool, interesting bands, and then I played a show last night or yesterday at the same place. There's a great new venue that's been really kicking things into high gear as far as live entertainment and music, and that is Hey Sailor. Super cool. Been going there a ton to see music, and I've been fortunate to play a lot of gigs there this year so far. So it's been cool, and I have two more gigs coming up there this weekend. So very excited. It's a great spot. We've played a couple of shows there with Quantum, and it was super fun. Looking forward to doing some more things there. Maybe later this year. So again, and what I've been really busy doing as far as movies go, or I should say television shows, but I kind of consider it a movie. I mean, basically, but is I've been really immersing myself in the Game of Thrones world. I have been late to the game, or I consider myself to be very late to the game. And I finally kind of made a decision a while back that I really wanted to actually hunker down and watch the entire series this winter. It's a good time of year to kind of do that. There's less things going on, and it's nice to be cozy in your house and watch some films. And so there's a couple of series, television shows that I've been wanting to get to, and so I figured, why the hell not? And I had bought last year. I bought the complete first season of Game of Thrones on DVD, so that kind of kicked things off. So since then, I've been working on watching the series, and it's been totally fun and super awesome. I'm on season 3 now. I've been posting lots of reviews on the show and some of my thoughts. I have two official reviews for season 1, season 2 that I posted on the channel. So check it out. A lot of fun. There's a little ways to go, but I'm really enjoying every minute of it. It's been a blast. So yeah, check it out. And they'll there'll probably be more reviews of other television shows. I feel like, in all honesty, I feel like I'm probably changing my it's probably changing my mind and changing my tune around my view of films, of television shows, I should say. I've always said that the main thing is, you know, that's hard for me to get through, even if the show is just fantastic, is how long a lot of these television shows, how long they would run. You have Game of Thrones, which was on for maybe a little less than 10 years, and then there's a bunch of other shows where they have been on for 9 seasons or whatnot. And I don't know. After a while, I've always had this problem that after a few seasons in, I get this crazy fatigue, and I'm just like, even if it's just incredible, I kind of check out. And it is, and it does, from a narrative standpoint, even if the writing is so great, it feels like it's, I don't know, overstaying its welcome. It's always been a thing for me, even though there are obviously some amazing TV shows, but that's why I always go back to movies, because it's just like one and done, and it's conclusive, and you feel like you're getting that, you know, closure right away for the most part. Obvious, the obvious thing around, say, franchises, which I really love, and I have been doing reviews on movie franchises that I love. Obviously, there's that obvious, kind of connection, but it's different. I feel like it's different. For a good franchise, I feel like each movie, for the most part, acts independently, and I think to a degree it should. I think each movie should act independently, and I really feel that when you're going into a movie that becomes a franchise, or that is a franchise, say Friday 13th, for instance, or Halloween, or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, I just did a big show on the Purge films, which is, I think, one of the rare exceptions of where they really do it right. But I think, each movie for in that franchise should be strong enough that you don't necessarily need to have seen the previous films. I think it should really be, highly effective and engaging. And, some franchises you cannot do that. You have to watch things in order because of the timeline and various other things. So, but I think when a movie can do that, it's really fantastic. So I think there's a little bit of a different. It's hard to compare the two between a television show and a movie franchise. I think it is different. So anyway, stay tuned for the next, for the next review for the next installment, which I'm watching right now, which is season 3 for Game of Thrones. So that'll be coming out almost, almost done with it. So it's been a lot of fun. So today's show is on a movie that I wasn't sure if I actually did a show on. I don't think I have, but there are some movies that I have done multiple reviews on because I love them so much. And sometimes, obviously, when you watch a movie, you're where you're at, maybe your age or just your state of mind, can really change your experience. And I've done some reviews on certain films of where I have kind of gone back to them, and tried to give a different perspective on the film. So I don't really think necessarily it's a taboo or a bad thing to have maybe multiple reviews of a film, of the same film, because I do think there's definitely a lot of films out there that I would say definitely have really impacted me, but they've also been a somewhat significant different experience for me, depending on where I was, in my age or in my mental space. And this is one of those movies that was an integral part of my youth. I still love it to death, and that is Conan the Barbarian, the original, directed by John Milius. It is, again, this movie is one of the most impactful movies of my childhood. I picked up this Blu-ray copy, or actually no, it's not Blu-ray. I wish it was. I got this on. This is a DVD copy, but this is a really, really great edition. I got this down in Portland, Maine, probably about 3 or 4 years ago. Super psyched when I got this. I don't own this on Blu-ray. I really should, for obvious reasons. But this is a really awesome DVD. This is like a special edition, collector's edition of this movie. So there's all kinds of special features on here. There's a really great interview with John Milius. Just fabulous. Just an incredible behind the scenes look at this film, and the kind of the method behind what created this film. But this movie has always been one of my go-to movies. Of course, I would, and I do need to get I do need to get a Blu-ray version of this film when it comes around. This movie is like essential viewing. This was like probably my first movie. Of course, Conan the Barbarian is based on a comic book, the original. And I was very much a comic book nerd as a kid. But in that time, I don't remember being really aware of Conan the Barbarian in the graphic novel, or I should say the comic book version of where the origins came from. I got into some of those comics later on. Like usually, when I was a kid and I got into comic books, and it kind of has remained. I still am into comic books, but I don't really buy them. I haven't bought any in a very long time. Occasionally I do. The the obvious, explosion of, all media things related to comic books is, just insane. But so when I was a kid, I really got into my favorites were Batman, and of course, Batman is still my favorite comic book character of all time. I was really into Batman, really into Daredevil. Again, one of my favorites of all time. Captain America, very much so, and I still am a huge Captain America fan. I was really into the Avengers and the X Men, especially the X Men, for a long time. And then I got into Power Man and Iron Fist. I got into. I have a big collection of the Dracula series of comics that came out. Another character that I really, really loved, and he's still one of my favorite superhero characters, a little less known, that is Firestorm. But I didn't discover. I saw this movie. I saw the original Conan the Barbarian. I saw this, when I was super, super young. And I remember a few years after I had seen this movie, I came across the Conan comics where it started, and I started buying some. So I still have a handful of those comics. This film was directed by John Milius, who is kind of one of my, I don't know, he's kind of always been one of my inspirations. I think he's an amazing force in the world of cinema, and he's got a deep connection to the art of cinema, I think, in many ways. He grew up and went to the same college in California with Francis Ford Coppola and George Lucas. They basically started. It was when they started a pact, basically, and it was around a time that they were all new and kind of struggling filmmakers, and they all obviously went on to have massive careers. But at the time, Francis Ford Coppola, of the three of them were super close. They all worked together exclusively. Francis Ford Coppola started Zoetrope, which is his company, and that helped finance and release most of their early work. With THX from George Lucas, it was a real pivotal company, and then Francis Ford Coppola's own work. Just an incredible time in history, and it's so interesting hearing the stories of them kind of being friends and being in this really creative environment. The school that he attended, along with Coppola and George Lucas, was the University of Southern California of Cinema. That's where they all bonded and became brothers, basically, in the art of cinema. This masterpiece came out in 1982. It was directed by John Milius. He also received an Academy Award nomination for the one of the greatest war films, if not the greatest war film ever, Apocalypse Now. He wrote the screenplay for that, and I always am fascinated by watching interviews with him. I have the Redux of Apocalypse Now on Blu-ray, which is probably overall my most prized possession as far as owning Blu-rays. And there are two interviews on there with Coppola and Milius, and it is just amazing. I mean, you really listening to both of them talk, and especially John Milius, it's like going to film school. It's just fascinating. John Milius was also the screenplay. He wrote the screenplay for the first two Dirty Harry films, which is super cool. Again, amazing classics. He also directed The Wind and the Lion with Sean Connery, which is an amazing movie. Really, really great. He also directed Red Dawn, which was a movie that came out in 1984, and I definitely want to see that movie again. I remember that movie being super awesome and pretty badass. There was a remake of that film that came out a few years back, and I heard it was pretty terrible, but I have not seen the original in so long, and that would be really cool. But again, John Milius is just such a cool dude, and I've always loved seeing him interviewed. He's so candid and open, and incredibly smart. I mean, the guy is so well read, and he wrote probably the greatest movie or his portrayal of life during wartime with it being Apocalypse Now. That film being Apocalypse Now. So just an amazing figure, an amazing director, such a creative force. He hasn't really done anything. I mean, he is close to being almost 80 years old already, which is just wild. But he is amazing. Conan the Barbarian is again, can't really say too much more about Arnold Schwarzenegger because of course everybody knows his history and his incredible films. My favorite film of his career, of Schwarzenegger's career, I probably would have to say would be the original Predator movie. I just love that movie to death. But when I'm sitting here talking about Conan the Barbarian, I mean, it's I almost have to say that it's such a close. It's almost a tie. James Earl Jones, of course, just amazing in this film. One of the ultimate villains ever in a film. This movie is super brutal, super evocative, and just so entertaining. And it's truly the most epic, one of the most epic films ever. I think such an amazing adaptation of the original source material. Also, and of course, James Earl Jones plays Thulsa Doom. I mean, again, just iconic. I think I discovered James Earl Jones through this film before uh, I realized, like, I had seen Star Wars. Obviously, Star Wars came out before 79, so this came out in 82. But I was unaware of, obviously, when I was a little kid, I was unaware of who James Earl Jones was as an actor, other than his iconic voice playing Darth Vader. But I realized, or him actually playing Darth Vader, but it wasn't until Conan came out that I put two and two together, and I was like realizing, wow, like, and again, just an iconic actor, um, brilliant actor. I mean, his body of work is just astounding. But I would have to say when I come back to Schwarzenegger, I would have to say like it's a close tie between Predator and Conan. But this movie, I can watch this movie over and over again, and I never get sick of it. I'm not a huge fan of the sequel that came out. I think there's two. I just felt like they've never lived up to being as strong as this movie. This movie is just so epic in every way. And 1982. There's nothing dated about this film in a bad way. It still holds up. It's still brutal, and it's just so epic and just incredible. This was the first movie again too that I saw that was a fantasy movie that I can remember. I I was into Dungeons and Dragons as a kid, and I remember the animated series when I was a kid. That was probably one of the first like television shows or cartoons I should say that was kind of my introduction to like fantasy. But I have to say the first movie that kind of dealt with the fantasy element was definitely Conan. This was like kicked it off. This also led to me being into films like Clash of the Titans, and then that led to my introduction to Clash of the Titans, like I said, and the amazing work of Ray Harryhausen, all of those incredible films that he was responsible for designing all the effects for. Um, the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. The list is endless. So, yeah, most people out there have probably seen this film, but it's essential. One of the greatest films ever in the world of fantasy and action. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.